Lena Hawthorne had always believed in fate. She had spent years waiting for the right person, the one who would sweep her off her feet and make her believe in love the way she always dreamed. In the quiet town of Everbrook, love stories often began at the river. The townsfolk spoke of couples who met by the willow trees, where the water bent like a lover's embrace, where whispered promises carried on the breeze. Tonight was supposed to be her moment. She clutched her phone tightly, reading the last message from Daniel Fields, the man who had unexpectedly stolen her heart. "Meet me where the river bends. 10 p.m. I have something important to tell you." Her heart fluttered. Had he finally realized that he felt the same way? Would tonight be the night when everything changed? The very thought sent shivers down her spine, though whether from excitement or nerves, she couldn't tell. The full moon cast a ghostly glow on the riverbank as she made her way through the winding path. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and wildflowers, a strange mix of beauty and decay. The trees whispered in hushed tones as if warning her to turn back, but she didn't listen. She reached the bend where the willow trees dipped low over the water, their branches swaying like fingers beckoning her forward. The river stretched before her, dark and endless, its surface smooth as glass. A single lantern flickered near the water's edge, casting long, eerie shadows that danced across the reeds. But Daniel was nowhere in sight. She frowned, checking the time. 10:03 p.m. He was late. Pulling out her phone, she typed, "I'm here. Where are you?" No response. Minutes passed. The silence pressed in, thick and suffocating. A cold shiver ran down her spine, but she forced herself to stay. Maybe he was just running late. Maybe he had changed his mind. Or worse, maybe he had never meant to meet her at all. The thought sent a sharp pang through her chest, but she quickly shook it off. No, Daniel wouldn't do that. He wasn't cruel. He had always been kind, always looked at her with something she dared to hope was affection. Another 5 minutes. Then 10. She clenched her fists, her breath quickening. Something wasn't right. She took a slow step forward, her shoes sinking slightly into the damp earth. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of something foul, something that didn't belong. And then she heard it. A soft splash. Her heart jumped into her throat. The river had been still just moments ago. She took another step toward the water, peering into the darkness. The lantern's dim glow barely reached the surface, but she could make out something beneath the water. Something pale. She squinted, her pulse hammering. The object floated just beneath the surface, tangled in the reeds. At first, it didn't register. It looked like a piece of driftwood, smooth and still. But then, the current shifted, and it rolled slightly, exposing something that made her stomach drop. A hand. Her breath caught in her throat. Her mind screamed at her to run, but her body refused to move. The fingers were stiff, unmoving, the skin too pale, too lifeless. Her heart pounded as the water carried the body closer to shore. Then the moonlight revealed its face. Lena gasped, stumbling back, a strangled cry escaping her lips. It was Daniel. His eyes, once filled with warmth and laughter, now stared blankly at the sky, his mouth slightly parted as if caught mid-scream. His dark hair floated around him like a halo, the water tugging at his clothes, dragging him further into its depths. This wasn't possible. This couldn't be happening. He had just texted her. He had invited her here. Her mind raced, struggling to make sense of it. If he had been dead, if he had been in the river this whole time, then who had sent her that message? Her phone vibrated in her trembling hand. A new text. "Unknown number. You shouldn't have come here." A scream lodged in her throat. She turned, ready to run, but the moment she did, something rustled in the trees behind her. Not the wind. Not an animal. Footsteps. Someone was watching her. She wasn't alone. Small town. Dusk. A quaint riverside town, wrapped in golden twilight. The streets are quiet, lined with antique shops and cafes closing for the evening. The air hums with the distant croaking of frogs and the whisper of the wind rustling through the trees. EXT, riverbank, night. Lena Hawthorne, mid-20s, auburn hair and curious eyes, walks along the bank. She carries a small lantern, its glow reflecting off the slow-moving river. Her heart pounds with excitement. Tonight, she is meeting Daniel. A text on her phone reads, "Meet me where the river bends." Lena tucks her phone away, inhaling the crisp scent of damp earth. She follows the path until she reaches the bend, where the willow trees lean low over the water, their branches swaying like phantom fingers. She waits. Minutes pass. No Daniel. She pulls out her phone again, typing, "I'm here. Where are you?" No response. The unease creeps in. The river, once inviting, now feels vast and unknowable. She steps closer to the water's edge, peering into the darkness. A ripple disturbs the surface. Then another. And then a hand breaks the surface. Lena stumbles back, a scream caught in her throat. Her lantern quivers in her grasp as she watches, frozen. The hand is pale, lifeless, tangled in the reeds. And the face that emerges beneath the moonlight. It's Daniel. His eyes, once full of warmth, stare blankly into the sky. Lena's world shatters. EXT, police station, night. Lena sits in a sterile interrogation room, a blanket draped over her shoulders. Detective Carter, grizzled but kind-eyed, leans forward, his gaze steady. "Detective Carter, we need to go over this again, Miss Hawthorne." Lena rubs her arms, her fingers trembling. "Lena, I don't know how else to say it. I came to meet him, and he was just there. In the water." Carter studies her. There's something behind his eyes. Doubt, but also curiosity. "Detective Carter. Daniel Fields drowned over a week ago." Lena's breath catches. "Lena, that's impossible. He texted me tonight." Carter exhales, pulling out a plastic evidence bag. Inside is a phone, Daniel's phone. Water damaged, its screen cracked, but unmistakably his. "Detective Carter. This was recovered with his body. It hasn't been used since the night he went missing." Lena's blood runs cold. "Lena, then who was texting me?" A long silence. The detective exchanges a look with another officer. Then he leans in. "Detective Carter. That's what we need to find out." Int. Lena's apartment. Night. Lena paces, phone in hand, scrolling through her messages with Daniel. The texts are still there, proof that she wasn't imagining it. Then a new message pops up. "Unknown number. You shouldn't have gone to the river." Lena's pulse spikes. Her fingers hover over the screen. "Lena, who is this?" 3 dots appear. A response is coming. Then they vanish. She exhales sharply, tossing the phone onto her bed. The room suddenly feels too small, too suffocating. She pulls up Daniel's last voicemail, playing it on speaker. His voice, warm and familiar, fills the silence. "Daniel, VO. Hey, Lena. I have something important to tell you. Meet me at the river tonight. Please. It's about..." A rustling sound. Then a faint, second voice, distorted but urgent. "Unknown voice, VO. Don't come." The message cuts off. Lena's breath shudders. EXT, riverbank, night. Determined, she returns to the place where she found him. The reeds sway in the wind. The water ripples as if whispering secrets. She kneels, pressing her hand against the damp earth. "Lena, what happened to you, Daniel?" The wind picks up. The river churns. And from the darkness beyond the trees, a figure emerges. A shadow moving toward her. Lena spins around, heart hammering. "Lena, who's there?" A beat. Then, a voice, low, haunting. "Unknown figure. You weren't supposed to find him." Lena takes a step back. The figure steps forward, into the pale moonlight. And Lena finally sees the face of the person who lured her here. The one who wanted Daniel to stay hidden forever. And the horrible truth that will change everything.